Welcome to Adello. Today I'm excited to share with you the unboxing of this one. This is a brand new Google Pixel 9. Now this is obviously the ninth generation of the Google Pixel phone, and today's unboxing is about understanding what it does, how it is different from previous generations, and for that purpose I brought with me actually not the latest generation, not the 8, but the 7, because I've owned pretty much all the Google Pixel phones and Nexus phones, predecessors of Pixels. With two exceptions, I skipped the Google Pixel Generation 8 and Generation 4, but I've owned every single other generation of phones in the past. So I think it's going to be a very interesting day today to see how this is different, what has changed, and in which sense this might be the blueprint for smartphones in the future. If you find this content useful, please subscribe or hit the like button. Thanks a lot for that. All right. All right. Without further ado, here are the 7 and the 7 Pro. This is a Pixel 9, so let's open this and see what it does. Compare the boxes actually. Here comparing it to the Pixel 7. Size-wise, the footprint is about the same. Bit slimmer, and it looks like recycled carton or something. In the box you have the phone, and unsurprisingly, just the charging cable. As you know, most companies have done away with adding the power banks or power bricks to just provide you with the charging cable. Here's the beauty. So let's look at the two phones, because the 7 and 8 are essentially the same design-wise. There was not much difference. In terms of size, the 7 is slightly taller than the Pixel Generation 9. And I'd say also a tad wider. We'll look at that in the specs later on, so we'll share that with you. But what I can say is it feels really good in hand. And I'd say for the first time, Google phones maintain this distinct design element, this camera bar or visor, what you want to call it, which I personally love a lot because it's a natural resting place for the finger. So it's a good place to hold the phone. But at the same time, in my opinion, it looks a lot like an iPhone. The whole, I have to say, the haptics are amazing. I think I just found my favorite Pixel phone. So you have these rounded edges, but there is still this edge to it. They finally went to flat screens. I have to say, there was one thing I didn't like about the Pixel 6 Pro, which was this curved display, which in the 7 they reduced, in the 8 they did away with it, and here as well. I think design-wise, they got it right, and it feels really premium. So make a comparison of what is made of, but I think the back plate is Victus 2 glass, so it should be pretty shatterproof. So this is the Pixel 7, Pixel 7 and Pixel 9. And as you can see, the design language has changed quite a bit. And I think if people were to put this on a table in a bar, many people would mistake this, apart from the Google logo, for a new iPhone. It looks more iPhone to me than Google, but it still feels like Google because of this camera bar, which I love. Now, talk about specs and talk about this phone compared to other Pixel phones. In the past, you always had Google Pixels with two versions. You had the small version, which was the Pixel 7, the Pixel 8, the Pixel 6, etc., etc. And then you had the Pro version. And the Pro version was simply the biggest phone, and it had the best specs. It had more RAM, it had better camera, etc., etc. And personally, I have to say I love my Pixel 7 Pro. I think it's an amazing phone, but it is for me a bit large in footprint. So if you like me, one of my favorite phones of all time was basically was the iPhone 4, and then later on the iPhone 5S. Those are sort of my favorite phones because they were very pocketable. They had a great haptic, and they were just amazing to put in your, when you were swimming, you just put them in there, and they were great in form factor. Now, over the years, phones have become larger and larger. And personally, I'm not a big fan of that trend. I think we've reached a size where it becomes a two-hand operation. And Google now made the switch and said, well, we'll offer 3 versions of the Google Pixel 9 series. Actually, 4 if you count in the foldable. But Unlike before, where if you wanted the latest and greatest, you had to go for the bigger form factor. Otherwise, you'd have to settle without the zoom camera and less RAM in the standard model. Now, the Pixel 9, oops, I'll keep this on this side. For the Pixel 9 series, they're mixing up that and saying, well, you can choose smaller form factor, which is the 9 and the 9 Pro. They share the exact same footprint, but the 9 Pro has the best camera and more RAM. And the 9 Pro XL adds screen size. So the XL is the definition of size, but the Pro is the definition of capability. So let's look at the Pixel 9 series compared to the previous generations. So here we have the comparison table with the Pixel 9 series, which I just put in the 9 Pro, Pro XL, as well as the standard series 9. And then to the right you have Pixel 8, 8 Pro, and 7, 7 Pro, the ones which are on the table. So the first thing you see is obviously new year, new generation of chip. So now we're looking at the latest generation of chip, and there's a couple of changes with the Google Tensor G4. For those of you who have owned, for instance, the Google Pixel 6, you might remember that the cell phone reception was a bit lackluster. I'd say the phone was prone to overheating, and also the cell phone reception was not the best. Now this year's generation, which was produced, I believe, in collaboration with Samsung and the Exynos chipset, should be much better in that respect. Obviously, the G4 is sold by Google as an AI chip. They emphasize that Google Tensor is not built for pure performance, but it's built for smartness. I'm not sure whether I entirely agree with that, because if you compare, obviously, the competitors which are running Snapdragon, Gen 8, 1, 2, 3, etc., those are typically much higher performing than the Google Tensor chips. However, Google claims that the Google AI is what they're optimized for, and that probably means it's optimized for Gemini, it's optimized for camera performance, etc. Notably, the video performance has improved over the last 2 or 3 generations quite a bit. So that from a processing standpoint. Now, interesting to know is also, if you compare the Pixel 9 to the 9 Pro, you get 12 versus 16 megabytes of RAM, out of which a large chunk is actually reserved for the AI features, notably Gemini, which can run on the phone. It does not need an internet connection to run Gemini, which is basically like a ChatGPT kind of model on the phone itself. So I'm pretty excited about that. And again, that's something I'll test in the next couple of days and weeks, because I want to know, how is this capable? How can this really tap into the data on the phone and give me some benefit? So that's for me the big change in this year's generation. Camera specs have not really changed dramatically compared to the Pixel 8 and 7 series. And again, those cameras were outstanding, I'd say. I was super happy with the Pixel 7 Pro. That's why I saw no reason really to upgrade to the 9 Pro, or to the 8 Pro, I have to say. Those are just good camera specs. Android and support. So these devices are being shipped with Android 14, not 15, to the surprise of many people, which is surprising in that sense that the Pixel 8 was also launched with Android 14, and Google promises 7 years of updates, which I think is great, because that's pretty much the best in the industry. It's more than even Apple is offering. So you can expect to live quite a long time with this phone. I think the phone will break before the software updates and security updates. So let's talk a little bit about what has changed over the years, because I think many of you are asking, well, what has changed with smartphones? They all have cameras, and the cameras nowadays are amazing. I think we'll find little fault in any mid-range to high-end phone in terms of camera performance. They're all decent. In the meantime, they all make decent nighttime photos as well. Video is probably one differentiating factor, but that, again, is diminishing every single year. So that's not the real difference. So let's take a quick look back over time. What has happened in the smartphone industry, and where is the differentiation happening? Because in my opinion, Pixel 9 is a huge thing. Now, in the past, think about when we started. We started with the smartphone industry about 18 years ago with the iPhone in 2007. And in that time, it was all about having access to apps on a phone. So that was like the beginning of a little ecosystem. And that was enough to define a smartphone. You had a larger screen, and you had application capabilities. Later on, we expanded that universe and said, well, suddenly the haptics mattered as well. You might remember all those Nokias were made of plastic, very plasticky, and these are high-end devices. These are luxury devices. They're seamless. They are impeccable in terms of build quality. So we've come a long way over those years, and now build quality is also on a level where most phones, and again, this is 7, 6 in my opinion, was maybe not quite as good. 7 for me really did right. Um, the 7 in terms of build quality was already amazing, and now all the high end and also most of the mid range phones are impeccable in build quality. So the haptics is also becoming less of a differentiation factor for smartphone manufacturers. And the other part to realize is that the cameras initially were also battlefield. Who has the best camera? Is it the iPhone 13? Is it Pro Max, 14 Pro Max? Is it a Pixel? Is it a Xiaomi or any other brand? They're all fighting for who has the best or the very best smartphone camera. And there again, if you have any of the high-end phones, very little differentiation. Most of it is really, do you have the zoom or not? And the rest is software. And now we're slowly getting to it. The biggest change in the smartphone industry, in my opinion, is the access to AI. AI will be the next battlefield, whether it is Apple AI, which is AI, or whether it is Google AI called Gemini, or any other solution. I think that's where we'll see the revolution in the next couple of years, because these smart companions were actually very stupid in terms of interaction. If you think about Siri, if you think about Hey Google, they were cumbersome. They were nothing what you would expect from a leading company to present. It was more like a beta version of something, which which is more of a promise or a framework of what is to come. And with Pixel 9, at least from what I hear and from the initial presentation, looks really like now we'll get an AI companion in our hand, which is capable, which like a small personal assistant. And in that sense, the battlefield is not the device itself. The device itself is just a requirement to play in this game. But the software and the AI will become the true battlefield of who will reign supreme in the smartphone industry. And I'm actually excited that Google struck first. Many of the features which we came to appreciate with Google Pixel 7 and then the 8, etc. For instance, with a smart calling assistant. So it holds the call for me, it transcribes the call, dialogue, etc. Those are amazing features, but those are just small features. I do expect from this experience in the Pixel 9, and I'll share my opinion with you in the next couple of days and weeks, will really set the tone for how smartphones can emerge from just being devices to actually solutions and companions which help us in our daily lives. So that's Pixel 9. Yeah, I hope you found this content useful, and I hope you're also as excited as I am about the smartphone industry and what is happening in tech. Thanks for watching. My name is Mark. This is Adello unboxing of the Pixel 9. Have a good day.